at 7:30 on New Hampshire PBS.
You're watching viewer-supported New Hampshire PBS.
I'm Emily Rooney. Welcome to Beat the Press. Our topics. Do candidates have a point when they say the media is manipulating the outcome? Those money-making mugshot galleries may be harder to find on some news websites. And the New York Times apologizes for publishing an explosive story about China without telling its media partners first. Plus our panel's rants and raves of the week. Joining me are Adam Riley of WGBH News, Lila Alphonse, formerly of U.S. News and World Report, John Keller of WBZ News, and Kelly Crossley of WGBH News. First up, it's a time-honored tradition. When there's a presidential election, there are also complaints that the press is putting its finger on the scale instead of giving voters the facts. Sometimes those gripes don't ring true, but in this election cycle, some of the critics might just have a point. Adam has more.
After Deval Patrick got less than 1% of the vote in New Hampshire, he dropped out of the race, saying the media's relentless focus on his timing derailed his campaign.
Maybe you entered too late.
You and Michael Bloomberg entered this campaign late.
It is going to be difficult for him to raise the kind of money he needs.
In a statement, Patrick said, the media confuses its essential responsibility to report what happens.
Lila, well, that's it for Biden, and it may well be, which is probably why they stayed with him, because they figured this is it. We're not going to see him anymore. And so Elizabeth Warren is right about that, but actually it's a compliment to her. They expect her to be around. They don't expect him to be around. They made that choice. At the same time, there then was a whole lot of conversation about adding up how many people are in this group in the Democratic Party and how many over here, and what does that mean? And you can forget it going into Nevada when, as somebody said, not me, 98% of the people have not voted.
I heard that.
Right.
But there is a lot of, this is one of your, bugaboos about, sort of keystroke cheap things like Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg are always the billionaire. Pete Buttigieg is the Westerner, the Midwesterner. That's a positive. Billionaire is a pejorative. So it's just keystroke, and that it happens a lot. I mean,
shorthands,
the shorthands.
No,
electability, viability, all those things.
Okay, but it's a big jump from acknowledging that fact to saying, well, voters are being unduly influenced by this. I see no proof that they are, and if they are, maybe they ought to get off the couch, wake up, put down the clicker, and do a little research.
Well, Adam, you found that one woman who was mad about the,
I'm trying to remember.
The MSNBC thing.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But I would say that this played well for. Let's look at Amy Klobuchar. Okay, if you follow the media narrative, he's nobody. She's not good. She did her debate. She came out. She changed.
And
there
at
you
this
go.
point, though, all the candidates are trying to reach the fringes, right? They're the really engaged people who are going to show up for the primaries and the caucuses. Everything's going to change again once we have a candidate who has to reach the vast majority of people and get them to come off their couches. Yeah, if we can find that. But they need someone who's going to inspire you to get up off your couch. And I'm not, we're not at that stage yet. So we have to wait.
All right, well, if you frequent local news websites, you might have come across a tempting piece of clickbait, a rogues gallery of mugshots of recently arrested people. Now some news organizations are rethinking the practice. Mugshot galleries are easy money for local newsrooms. The more clicks, the more eyeballs for advertisers. In Albuquerque, KRQE offers one-stop surfing by putting the mugshots on a simple scroll page. Other sites like Springfield's WWLP makes you click on the photos one at a time. The practice doesn't sit well with some news people.
I think that once you start sort of evaluating whether you should have mugshot galleries, it really opens the door to all these other questions. You should also rethink the use of individual mugshots, because this is all a very different game when you're on the internet.
That's crime reporter Carrie Blakinger, who knows what it's like having your mugshot out there. As an Ivy League college student high on heroin, she was arrested for drug possession. It wasn't until after her phenomenon with local news that newspapers, more in particular, make a lot of money off of this.
That sounds like a real shakedown racket. Make you pay.
Oh, yeah, no, that is a shakedown.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So that's absurd and heinous. And I think the objections are definitely worth noting, and I'm glad to see some news organizations are trying to be responsible about it. But
you might consider him a sexual predator or something else, but they did not come to terms with it. They also did not include such quotes as, grab him by the pussy, you can do whatever you want, or I moved on her like a bitch, which would have kind of undercut the fun and frisky, frolicsome tone that they were striving for. Just remarkably stupid, in my opinion, in concept and execution.
Wow. I agree with that completely. All right, John.
Well, staying on the topic of the Trump administration, there's been a lot of, I think, justifiable concern about what people call normalization of some of the more aberrant behavior of the president. Well, here's another issue to keep on your radar. Trivialization. And an example is the latest in the genre of Inside the White House tell-all books or exposés of what's going on behind the scenes. A couple of Daily Beast reporters have written a book, and the nugget that has popped out of it, I don't even know if it's on the stands yet, that is getting wide play on the internet, is that the original chief of staff, Rance Priebus, once the president discovered that the badger was the state animal of Wisconsin, Priebus's home state, he peppered him often with questions about badgers. Are they mean animals? Are they friendly? What are they like? What do they eat? And this is proffered as an example of Trump's lunacy. Now, there may be a legitimate avenue of inquiry there, but I think to have that be the headline, maybe even an ad hoc headline, trivializes a line of inquiry that's actually deadly serious.
I don't know.
Dressing down the generals, for example, calling them.
But it also speaks to the kinds of things that he focused on instead of dressing down. It's weirdly fascinating, John.
Well, I get it, but it seems to me entirely possible, as much of a whack job as he can be sometimes, that he was just busting Priebus's chops by ridiculing the badger. That would be consistent with his personality.
So are badgers friendly?
Not the honey badger, I can tell you that much.
All right, Lila.
So I have a rave for every news outlet, media outlet, website that showed people how to get to see Hair Love, the award-winning short film. But I'm especially grateful for an op-ed piece that ran in AZ Central by Greg Moore, pointing out that the fact that a short film about a dad who's attentive and loving and trying hard to help his daughter love her natural hair is so novel and out there that it deserves a huge Oscar nomination instead of just being considered normal. Shows that we have a way to go. But I hope everyone looks it up and watches it because it's really endearing. It's really beautiful and smart and funny. And I wish my kids had been able to see something like that in their short films 10, 15 years ago.
So you sort of contradict yourself because in some ways it's like it's such a mundane thing and it ends up being riveting.
It is riveting and it's really well done, but it's one of those things that should be just kind of normalized, I think, that dads can do their daughter's hair, that daughters can love their hair instead of hating it and wanting it to look different. So
I've been following that story for years. It was a Kickstarter campaign.
Yes, it did start as one.
It's just wonderful. So please, everybody.
Turn it to you, Callie.
So I am raving, kinda, I think, if my cautious rave, for a new outfit called the Black News Channel, based in Tampa. It's a 24-hour news channel, which is really organized, and most of the money raised by J.C. Watts, former Republican. I guess he still is a Republican, but that's how people might know him, Congressperson. And this is something he wanted to do. He's been working on it for years. This has been tried before. Roland Martin was the last person that had a show that was, specifically aimed with news about African Americans, and it didn't last for longer than a few years because it's expensive.
And that was a show.
That was a show.
And this is
a
24
whole
cable.
network.
How is that?
Yes.
Who's going to carry it?
Well, he's got it on cable. It's picked up on some cable around the country, and he's hoping to expand it. I mean, he spent years preparing for this, so this is not like I think I'm not going to be able to get some stations to carry it. He already had done some of that work, so we'll see. And because he's a conservative, people say, well, is this sort of like the black answer to Fox? Nope. And we're supposed to be just across the board, even, and we intend to cover everything, but he thought it was really necessary because there's so much information out here is negative, and he said, not that we're the whole positive channel either, but I'd like to see some more concentrated stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing seeing it.
Could be
Right.
interesting.
Well, finally tonight, I have a rant for both Twitter and Facebook, who refused to take down that doctored video of Nancy Pelosi. And this is when Donald Trump was honoring the Tuskegee Airmen. They played it straight, but afterwards she ripped up the script. But here's a little clip of that from the doctored video.
Charles is one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, the first black fighter pilots, and he also happens to be Ian's great-grandfather.
Now, of course, that didn't happen, but Twitter and Facebook claim, listen, those two events actually did happen. He honored the airmen, she ripped up the script. And so they're trying to say there's nothing fake about it, but it's completely doctored. Right?
It didn't happen together.
No, it didn't happen
Where
together.
would we be without Twitter and Facebook?
That is
And their
ridiculous.
moral compass.
Yeah, wow.
It's like a guiding star.
I was the
for
one
all
who
of
originally
us.
said I didn't want them being
That's
the police,
just
but now
pathetic.
I've
Oh,
got to
it's
take that
ridiculous.
back. All right, that is it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, send us a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org. I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of WGBH News.
Do you watch New Hampshire PBS using an antenna?
If so, on March 13th, WEKW in Keene will be moving to a different frequency.
What this means for you is that sometime soon you may flip over to New Hampshire PBS and find nothing. If that's the case, don't panic. It just means you'll have to rescan your television, and each television is different. You'll typically start with a menu. Look for Channel Scan or Auto Tune, and your TV will rescan for all available channels. Sometimes that can take a minute or two, but when complete, New Hampshire PBS, as well as New Hampshire PBS Explore, Create, World, and our 24-hour PBS Kids channels should be back among the available channels. And if it doesn't work, try rescanning again. To find out more, go to nhpbs.org/rescan. TV sets using satellite, cable, or other pay TV providers do not need to rescan. Remember, if you use an antenna and can't find New Hampshire PBS, don't panic, rescan it.
Jimmy Kimmel,
I videotape my relatives. I keep all the family photos.
Marissa Tomei,
I love my particular family's heritage, our traditions.
and John Turturro.
With my family, nothing surprises me.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on New Hampshire PBS.
Responsible about it, but let's